Without warning, my husband filed for divorce, telling me I was a worthless wife. He abandoned me for a younger mistress, completely convinced that I could not survive without him. I simply smiled in response. Now, he phones me 20 times every day. My husband, James, who I had been married to for 15 years, gave me divorce papers yesterday. He called me a useless wife and then told me he was moving in with his mistress. He was so sure I would completely break down without him. I am still in shock, but I need to share this story. Looking back, I should have noticed the signs were there. You never want to accept that the person you built your entire life with could change so completely. Or maybe they were always this way, and you just refused to see it. It all started with little things. Around 8 months ago, James became very interested in fitness. He began attending F45 workouts every morning at 5. He bought brand new workout clothes from Lululemon and kept checking his Apple Watch stats constantly. I was glad for him since we are getting older and staying healthy matters. He even bought me a Peloton for Christmas, though he reminded me weekly about its high cost and how little I used it. Then the late work nights started. There were suspicious texts he would quickly hide whenever I came near. He wore new cologne from Sephora that he claimed was a free sample. He began criticizing my appearance, suggesting I try popular skincare products from TikTok or get Botox like other people. I should mention that I take fine care of myself. I just do not want to spend hundreds of dollars on La Mer creams or whatever is currently popular on Instagram. Yesterday, while folding laundry, I found a receipt from Tiffany & Company in his pocket. We are not wealthy. We shop at Target and drive a 2018 Honda. A Tiffany receipt immediately worried me. When I looked at our joint bank account, I almost had a heart attack. There were several withdrawals going to an unknown account, and our savings had been slowly disappearing over the past 6 months. I waited for him to come home, holding the receipt. Instead of making excuses or trying to confuse me like I expected, he just laughed. He actually laughed out loud. Then he walked to his home office, returned with an envelope, and threw it on our coffee table. He said he was planning to wait until the weekend, but since I was being nosy, here it was. He smirked like he had won something. He mentioned that his lawyer said it was a generous settlement, considering I had contributed almost nothing to our marriage. I sat there looking at the divorce papers while he kept talking about his new girlfriend, Aurora. He said she actually takes care of herself and has ambition. Apparently, she is a fitness influencer he met at F45. She has 50,000 Instagram followers and is going somewhere in life. Meanwhile, I am just the wife who supported him during his early career, took care of all the housework, and put my own dreams aside because he said his job should be the priority. The worst part is that he had been planning this for months. He already has an apartment with her in one of those fancy downtown complexes. The Tiffany receipt was for a promise ring. He actually used our joint savings to buy jewelry for his mistress. He told me to be realistic. He said I cannot even figure out the Netflix app without his help, and I would be calling him within a week, begging to fix things. He claimed he was actually doing me a favor by teaching me to grow up. I did not cry. I did not scream. I simply sat there quietly, watching him pack his suitcase full of all his expensive new clothing. He took his iPad, his gaming console, and even our good coffee maker, leaving me with the cheap one. After he walked out the door, I opened my laptop and began going through all our financial accounts. I discovered that he had been transferring money around since January. I uncovered credit card statements showing charges at restaurants and hotels that I never knew anything about. I even found a Venmo transaction history that made me feel physically sick to my stomach. I immediately called my sister, Vivian, and she came over right away. We stayed up the entire night going through papers and creating lists of everything. This morning, I called in sick to my job and scheduled an appointment with a divorce lawyer. I also froze our joint credit cards, something I had learned was possible from a random TikTok video I had watched. Ironically enough, it has now been 24 hours, and my phone shows 23 missed calls from him. The first voicemail message was angry and aggressive. The second one was threatening. By the 10th message, he was practically begging me to discuss the situation rationally. Thank you to everyone for all the support and kind words on my previous post. I am still trying to process and understand everything that has happened, but several new things have occurred that I need to share and get off my chest. I have spent the past week staying at my sister Vivian's place. I have been sleeping on her couch, actually, since she has a child, and the guest room is completely full of toys and children's items. I am not complaining though. It is much better than being alone in that house right now with all those painful memories. The first reality check hit me hard. When I attempted to order something on Amazon, my card was declined for a $30 purchase. I called the bank to find out what was wrong, And that is when things really started to unravel and fall apart. It turns out that James had been secretly moving money around. He was not taking huge amounts that would have immediately caught my attention, but rather steady, smaller transfers of $200 or $300 every couple of weeks. He always labeled these transactions as things like car maintenance or home repairs. These were really basic expenses that I would not think to question or investigate further. Looking at all of this evidence now, I feel somewhat stupid and naive. We have had separate bank accounts ever since we got married. It was his idea initially. He said it would be more practical and easier to manage. But I trusted him completely with our joint savings account. That is where most of my paychecks went, supposedly building our future together, as he always called it. Yeah, right? I found out that he has been taking Aurora to all these fancy places. They are not super expensive restaurants, but they are definitely more upscale than places we would usually spend money at. Like that new fusion restaurant downtown where just the appetizers cost $15 each. Meanwhile, he would complain and get upset whenever I would spend $50 at Target on household items that we actually needed for our home. The strange part is that when I was going through all our papers and documents, and it is amazing how much stuff you collect and accumulate over 15 years of marriage, I found receipts from places I have never been to. These were small things like coffee shops located near her apartment and movie tickets from dates that I was not part of. He was not even really trying to hide them. Well, he just stuck them in a drawer mixed in with all our other regular paperwork and bills. Vivian has been helping me sort through everything carefully. She works at a bank, so she knows exactly what to look for and what questions to ask. She called it classic financial abuse, though that term feels too strong and dramatic for what happened to me. I just feel dumb and foolish. Like I should have noticed all these warning signs much sooner than I did. The most bizarre and unexpected thing happened yesterday. When I was at Walmart, I was getting some basic necessities like toothpaste and shampoo, the essentials. I ran into James's cousin, Mateo. Instead of it being awkward and uncomfortable like I expected, he actually helped me pick out a cheap printer for scanning important documents. He told me that James had done similar dishonest stuff to his high school girlfriend years ago. It would have been really nice to know that information 15 years ago before I married him, but whatever. That is in the past now. James keeps calling me, though not quite as much as before. It is down to maybe 5 or 6 times a day now instead of 20. The messages have switched from being angry and threatening to weirdly concerned about me. He texted me yesterday saying he was just worried about me handling the bills properly, as if I have not been successfully paying my own phone bill this entire time without any help. Aurora sent me a message on Facebook. It was nothing dramatic or emotional, just a simple message saying we should talk sometime. I left her on read and did not respond. What is there to talk about with her? She knew perfectly well that he was married. She is not some innocent victim in this situation. I met with a divorce attorney yesterday, nothing fancy or expensive. I found her through a women's support group on Facebook. She appeared genuinely worried about some of the financial matters, especially when I showed her the evidence of how he had been transferring money around. She told me we need to move quickly to prevent him from hiding even more assets. The biggest shock came when I finally logged into our old shared email account. I found confirmation emails for a credit card that I did not even know existed. It was not some high-limit card or anything like that, just a basic Capital One card with a $3,000 limit. But he had been using it for months, mostly making purchases at restaurants and gas stations located near her place. I had to laugh when I noticed charges from Planet Fitness on there. He had been telling me he was going to that expensive F45 gym, probably to impress her and seem more successful. I guess the fitness influencer girlfriend was not bringing in as much money as he pretended she was. Today, I opened my own separate bank account, just a basic checking account at Chase. The lady working at the bank was incredibly helpful and kind. She showed me how to use their mobile app and everything. It is not rocket science like James always made it seem. And I finally figured out why he always insisted on being the one to handle the Netflix account. I found out he had set up a separate profile that he would watch with her. Real classy move. James.edit 1. Thanks to everyone for all the advice about freezing my credit. I have already done that. It turns out it is actually pretty simple to do. Edit 2? Yes. I am documenting absolutely everything. I have a folder on my phone that is full of screenshots and evidence. Edit 3. For everyone who keeps asking, no, I have not responded to either of them. My lawyer strongly advises me to keep it that way. Edit 4. Some of you are suggesting that I expose Aurora publicly on social media. I am not interested in creating drama. I just want to get through this difficult situation with my dignity still intact. Quick update because this week has been absolutely wild and crazy. Remember how James was so completely sure and confident that I would fall apart without him? Well, karma had other plans in store for him. It all started when I finally landed a job at a local company. It is nothing fancy or glamorous, just basic customer service work that pays $16 an hour. But here is the interesting thing about it. The office is located in the same building as one of James's biggest and most important clients. You know, the ones he is always desperately trying to impress and keep happy. I did not plan this coincidence at all. I just saw the job posting on Indeed and applied for it. On my first day at work, guess who I ran into in the elevator? It was James, wearing his important meeting suit. You know, the one he maxed out our Nordstrom credit card to buy. Aurora was trailing behind him like a lost puppy dog. His face when he saw me dressed in work clothes and carrying my new laptop bag was absolutely priceless. Aurora just stood there very awkwardly, probably wondering why her supposedly successful boyfriend suddenly looked like he had just seen a ghost. But here's where the story gets really good. Remember how James always insisted on handling all our finances because I was supposedly too scattered and disorganized to understand them properly? Well, it turns out that my new manager, Matthew, actually really likes and appreciates how detail-oriented I am. He asked me to help organize some spreadsheets for the office while I was still learning the basics. While learning Excel through YouTube tutorials, I started applying those exact same skills to organizing all the evidence of James's financial wrongdoings and dishonest behavior. The best part about all of this is that I did not have to do anything dramatic or over. I simply handed over my neatly organized folders containing bank statements, credit card bills, and screenshots to my divorce attorney. She actually smiled genuinely when she saw just how thorough and detailed I had been with my documentation. She told me this evidence was perfect and that we would not even need to hire an expensive forensic accountant to investigate further. James found out about all of this during our first official mediation meeting. He showed up looking all confident and self-assured, probably expecting me to be an emotional mess. Instead, he walked into a room where I had printed copies of every single shady and dishonest transaction he had made over the past year. This included all the charges from hotels located near Aurora's apartment that he had previously claimed were legitimate business meetings. His face when the mediator started carefully going through all the evidence was better than any revenge I could have ever planned. I could have planned something dramatic. But wait, it actually gets even better. Remember that Peloton exercise bike he bought me for Christmas? The one he constantly said I never used. Well, I finally logged into the account last week. Guess what I discovered? I found workout history records showing that he and Aurora had been using it together at our house on days when I was away visiting my sister. Yes, they were using it right in our house while I was gone. I mentioned this detail casually during our mediation session. I simply slid the printed activity log across the table. James actually stuttered and stumbled over his words, trying to come up with an explanation for that one. The real karma hit hard when Aurora finally realized that James is not nearly as wealthy and successful as he had pretended to be. Apparently, she found out that he is still making payments on that Tiffany promise ring. And by the way, it was not even purchased from the actual Tiffany store. I found the real receipt, and it turns out it is from one of those fake look-alike websites that sell knockoff jewelry. How do I know all of this? Well, Aurora did something very interesting and unexpected. She messaged me on Instagram, but instead of the usual dramatic message saying we need to talk, she sent me screenshots. Lots and lots of screenshots. These included messages where James promised to buy her a car. With what money, I wonder. There were also conversations about moving into a luxury apartment that he definitely cannot afford. There were even some choice comments about me that, well, let's just say they are going to be very interesting additions to include in our divorce proceedings. She wrote to me saying that she thought I should see who he really is as a person. She said she was done being part of his lies and deception. I did not respond to her message at all. I just forwarded absolutely everything to my attorney. Professional revenge through legal channels is so much better and more effective than creating drama. The cherry on top of everything happened when James's mother called me yesterday. It turns out she has been watching this entire situation unfold within our small town's gossip circle. She apologized to me for enabling his bad behavior all these years. And then she dropped a complete bombshell on me. James got fired from his job, and it was not because of anything I did. Apparently, he had been inflating and falsifying his expense reports for many months. All those fancy dates he took Aurora on. He had been charging them to his company credit card and pretending they were business expenses. I am not going to lie to anyone. Part of me really wanted to post all of this information on Facebook, share all the screenshots publicly, and make him feel as humiliated and embarrassed as I felt when he called me useless and worthless. But you know what? I did not have to do any of that. He is doing a perfect job of destroying his own reputation all by himself without any help from me. Instead of focusing on revenge, I chose to focus my energy on making my new little studio apartment feel like a real home. I bought some plants from Home Depot, and guess what? They are still alive and thriving. I figured out how to mount a TV on my wall all by myself using YouTube tutorials. YouTube is truly amazing. I even started learning how to cook properly and make real meals. It turns out I am not actually hopeless in the kitchen like James always told me I was. The best revenge of all was when he created yet another new Instagram account just to message me. I did not even feel angry or upset anymore. I just marked it as spam and went right back to watching my YouTube cooking tutorial without giving him a second thought. Remember how I mentioned that James got fired for committing expense report fraud? Well, that was just the beginning of his downfall. It all started last Tuesday when I was getting my morning coffee at Starbucks before heading to work. I overheard two people at the table next to me talking about someone who had gotten caught charging personal expenses to their company accounts. I did not think much of it or pay close attention until I clearly heard them say James's name. It turns out he had not just been charging those romantic dates with Aurora to his company card. He had actually been running this same fraudulent scheme at his last 3 different jobs. How do I know all of this information? Because Aurora, of all people, started talking and sharing the truth. And she was not just talking to me. She was talking to everyone who would listen. You see, after James got fired from his job, he could not keep up with all the expensive promises he had made to her. There were no more fancy dinners at restaurants like Cheesecake Factory. There were no more shopping sprees at Lululemon for expensive workout clothes. There were no more weekend trips to nearby cities for romantic getaways. The final straw that broke everything was when he could not even make the monthly payments on that fake Tiffany ring.
Yes.
I still cannot believe he actually bought a cheap knockoff and pretended it was real. Aurora did not just get mad and upset about being lied to. She got methodical and strategic about her revenge. Remember all those fraudulent expense reports that James had been faking and submitting? Well, she had photos of them. Lots and lots of photos. Apparently, he used to brag to her about how clever and smart he was, showing her all his tricks and methods for gaming the system and stealing from his company. She had saved absolutely everything in her Google Photos account, thinking at the time that it was impressive that her boyfriend was so smart and creative with money. Last week, she made a TikTok video. It was nothing overly dramatic, just a casual story time about dating a guy who turned out to be a complete fraud and liar. She did not use any specific names in the video, but she included glimpses and screenshots of those receipts as proof. The video went completely viral within our local community circle. James's old coworkers immediately recognized the specific expense report format shown in the screenshots. Meanwhile, I had my own small victory to celebrate. Remember that joint Amazon account he kept desperately trying to get back into? Well, I discovered that he had been using it to purchase gifts for Aurora while we were still married and living together. So I did something petty but extremely satisfying. I returned absolutely everything that was still within the allowed return window period. The money from all those returns went directly back to my credit card since I was the original person who purchased them. The best part about all of this is that he did not even notice what I had done until Amazon automatically sent him those rate your purchase reminder emails. By that time, all the expensive stuff he had bought for Aurora was already back sitting in Amazon's warehouse, and the refunds had already cleared and deposited into my account. But here is where the story gets really good and satisfying. Yesterday, I was at Target picking up some storage bins because I was trying to organize and arrange my new place properly. While I was there, I unexpectedly ran into James's sister, Katie. Instead of it being awkward and uncomfortable, she actually hugged me warmly and spilled some interesting tea, as they say. She told me that James had been borrowing large amounts of money from their parents, claiming it was for promising investment opportunities and business ventures. It turns out he was actually using all that borrowed money to maintain and support his fake expensive lifestyle with Aurora. His parents found out the truth about all of this during a family dinner last weekend. How did they discover it? Because Aurora's TikTok video had somehow made its way to his mom's Facebook feed. There was apparently a huge, dramatic scene that happened at Olive Garden, of all places. James's dad became so angry and upset that he actually took back the spare key to their house that he had given James years ago. James's reaction to all of this unraveling was a total meltdown and breakdown. He started desperately messaging everyone he knew, trying to do damage control and fix his reputation. He made multiple new Instagram accounts specifically to harass Aurora and defend himself. He kept calling his old job repeatedly, trying to explain his side of the story and justify his actions. He even showed up at his parents' house at midnight, begging and pleading with them to understand his perspective and side of things. The karma train was not done with him yet, though. Remember how he always insisted on being the one to manage our shared cloud storage because he claimed I was too disorganized and messy? Well, I finally logged into that account last week with the intention of downloading some old personal photos. I found a folder that was full of screenshots of his private conversations with Aurora, from when they first started dating and seeing each other. This included some very interesting messages about their plans and schemes for after he left me and the divorce was finalized. I did not even have to do anything dramatic. With all that evidence, I just forwarded absolutely everything directly to my divorce attorney. She actually laughed out loud when she saw it all and told me that this evidence was making her job very easy. But the absolute peak and highlight of all of this happened when Aurora made a follow-up TikTok video yesterday. This time, she actually showed off the fake Tiffany ring in the video, complete with screenshots of the sketchy, suspicious website where he had bought it from. The video already has over 50,000 views and is still growing. James tried desperately to come to my workplace to talk about all of this. Or really, to beg me to help him fix and repair his damaged reputation. Security did not even let him enter the building. Apparently, his dramatic scene in the lobby is now featured on our office's security camera greatest hits collection that the guards watch. I did something kind of petty yesterday that I am not ashamed of. I changed all of our streaming service passwords one by one while watching his Ring camera. Notifications blow up repeatedly as he tried unsuccessfully to access each account. Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, and even his precious ESPN Plus. By the third failed login notification, I was actually giggling to myself. His dream car, that Tesla Model 3, he had leased specifically to impress Aurora, which was way above our actual budget, by the way, got repossessed this morning. They took it right from the parking lot of the Motel 6, where he has been staying ever since Aurora kicked him out of their shared apartment. I watched the entire thing happen from the Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru directly across the street. I did not plan to be there at that exact moment. I just stopped for my morning coffee on my way to work. Sometimes the universe just hands you these perfect moments as a gift. Edit 1, yes. I am still keeping backup copies of absolutely everything for the divorce proceedings and legal process. Edit 2, no. I will not share Aurora's TikTok username publicly. This whole situation is not about creating even more drama for its own sake. I was not planning on writing another update to this ongoing story, but some significant things have happened recently that feel like they provide a proper ending and closure to everything. It has now been 6 months since James left me, calling me his useless wife who could not function without him. The divorce is finally official and finalized. There was no dramatic courtroom showdown like you see in movies. Just boring paperwork and lawyers meeting in a bland, ordinary office. James looked absolutely rough and worn down, wearing the same Nordstrom dress shirt he always wore. He used to boast and brag about that particular shirt, but now it is wrinkled and looks a bit tight on him. It seems like his fitness influencer lifestyle with Aurora did not last very long after all. Here is where the story gets interesting and takes an unexpected turn. Remember all those fraudulent expense reports he had been faking and submitting to his company? Well, his company did not press criminal charges or do anything overly dramatic about it. They just did the corporate equivalent of shrugging their shoulders. They withheld his final paycheck and all his bonuses, blacklisted him from any future employment with them, and simply moved on with business as usual. It turns out that big corporations do not like public drama or scandals any more than absolutely necessary. Aurora left him last month. It was not with a dramatic bang or another viral TikTok video. She simply packed up her things and moved back to her parents' place in the suburbs. Apparently, life becomes much less exciting and glamorous when your boyfriend can no longer afford to take you on dates to places like Cheesecake Factory anymore. She tried messaging me on Instagram to explain her side of the story and justify her actions, but I just left her on read without responding. Some things simply do not need closure or explanation. James is now renting a single room in a shared house across town. His Tesla got repossessed, which was no surprise to anyone. Now he is driving a beat-up old Honda, the exact same kind of basic car he used to mock and make fun of me for wanting to buy because he thought it was too ordinary and basic. I'm still working at my customer service job, but I recently got a small raise of $5 per hour. It is not life-changing money, but it is definitely something to be proud of. I learned how to do my own tax returns through TurboTax. It turns out that filing taxes is not the complicated mystery that James always made it out to be to keep me dependent on him. I had an awkward but very revealing run-in with his mother at Target last week. She was shopping for storage bins in the exact same aisle as me. Instead of awkwardly avoiding each other, we actually stopped and talked for a while. She told me that James had tried to borrow money from them recently, but they firmly refused to give him any. She said he needs to grow up and learn to be responsible. Then she kindly helped me pick out some cheap but nice-looking throw pillows for my small studio apartment. The apartment is finally starting to feel like a real home to me. I got some plants from Home Depot. 2 out of the 3 plants are still alive and doing well, which I consider a success. I learned how to cook basic, healthy meals through a HelloFresh subscription. I also started going to Planet Fitness on weekends to work out. Nothing fancy or expensive, just normal. Regular life stuff that makes me feel good. James still tries to contact me regularly through new Instagram accounts he creates, usually when he has been drinking alcohol. The messages are mostly pathetic stuff like saying I will regret leaving him or claiming I cannot make it without him in my life. I just block each new account and delete the messages without responding. The funny part is that I found his old password list saved in our shared Google Drive account. Yes, he actually kept all his passwords in a document that was literally named Passwords. I did not do anything malicious with that information. I just forwarded it to his sister Katie so she could tell him to change everything for his own security. I met a nice guy named Matthew at work. Nothing serious or romantic is happening between us. We just have lunch together in the break room sometimes and talk. He is also recently divorced and completely understands why. I am not ready for anything real or serious right now. But here is the real kicker and most satisfying part. Last week while I was getting my morning coffee at Dunkin', I overheard some guys from James's old office talking at a nearby table. It turns out that he has been desperately calling and emailing them, trying to get his old job back. He even showed up in the office lobby once to beg for his position back. They did not even bother calling security to remove him. They just let him stand there awkwardly until he got tired and embarrassed enough to leave on his own. His new life is not exactly what he had planned or imagined it would be. He no longer has that fancy gym membership. He now works out at the same Planet Fitness gym as me. We awkwardly avoided each other in the parking lot once when we were there at the same time. Aurora's back on dating apps looking for someone new. His important business contacts do not return his phone calls anymore. Meanwhile, I am successfully doing all the things he confidently said I could never do without him. I am paying my bills on time, fixing minor household problems by myself, and managing my own budget responsibly. These are nothing extraordinary or special, just regular adult tasks and responsibilities that he had convinced me were somehow beyond my capabilities and intelligence. I found our old wedding photos while cleaning my apartment last weekend. That young girl in those photos who was trying so hard to be exactly what he wanted, I barely recognize her now. She seems like a completely different person. The most satisfying moment was not some big, dramatic revenge scene or public confrontation. It happened yesterday at the bank while I was depositing my paycheck. Yes, I still prefer doing it in person rather than using the app. The bank teller was the same kind woman who had helped me open my own independent account 6 months ago when I was shaking with fear and uncertainty about my future. She smiled warmly at me and said I looked happier now. And you know what? She is absolutely right. I truly am happier.